What if I told you that the most watched sporting event in human history is about to get even bigger?
We're talking about a tournament so massive, so unprecedented, so completely unlike anything football has ever seen before.
But even the people who run the sport are still trying to wrap their heads around it.
The FIFA World Cup 2026 isn't just another World Cup, it's a complete reinvention. It's a complete reconfiguration.
And by the time this video is over, you're going to understand exactly why football historians are already calling it the most significant tournament ever staged.
So buckle up, because we're about to take you on a journey through the records, the stadiums, the stories, and the sheer scale of what's coming in 2026.
It's 1930. Uruguay, a small South American nation, hosts the very first FIFA World Cup. 13 teams, 32 matches, and a world that was only just beginning to fall in love with the beautiful game. Fast forward nearly 100 years, and football hasn't just grown, it has exploded across every continent, every culture, every corner of the planet.
Today, FIFA counts 211 member associations. That's more countries than the United Nations recognizes. Think about that for a second. Football is played in places that don't even have seats at the world's political table. That's the power of this sport. And the World Cup has always been its crown jewel. Every 4 years, the planet stops. Offices empty, streets fall silent. Families gather around screens in living rooms from Lagos to London, from Buenos Aires to Bangkok. The World Cup doesn't just attract fans, it unites humanity. But here's the thing. For decades, only 32 teams got to experience that magic. 32 nations out of 211. That means roughly 5 out of every 6 FIFA member nations watched from the outside looking in. Year after year, qualifying campaign after qualifying campaign, heartbreak after heartbreak. Heartbreak. 2026 is about to change all of that. And it's going to change everything else too. Let's talk about the single biggest structural change in World Cup history, the expansion from 32 to 48 teams. Now, if you're a football purist, you might have had some concerns when FIFA first announced this back in 2017. More teams means more games. More games means more chances for mismatches, and nobody wants to watch a 6-0 hammering between a footballing superpower and a nation that barely qualified, right? But here's what the expansion actually means when you look at it properly. 16 additional nations get to stand on the biggest stage in sport. 16 more sets of fans get to experience that indescribable feeling of watching their team play at a World Cup. 16 more national anthems echo across packed stadiums, 16 more underdog stories waiting to be written. And football history is absolutely littered with underdog stories. Cameroon shocking Argentina in 1990, Senegal defeating France in 2002, South Korea reaching the semi-finals on home soil that same year, Iceland stunning England in 2016, Morocco going all the way to the semi-finals in Qatar 2022. The beautiful game has always rewarded the brave, the organised, the hungry. And with 16 more teams in the mix, the chances of those magic moments multiply dramatically. The new format works like this. 48 teams are divided into 12 groups of 4. The top 2 from each group advance automatically, and then 8 of the best third-place teams also progress. That gives you a round of 32, followed by the knockout stages we all know and love. More teams, more drama, more moments that stop the world. Now, let's talk about something that has literally never happened before in World Cup history. 3 countries hosting a single tournament simultaneously. The United States, Canada, Mexico. 3 nations, 1 World Cup. Think about the geography here for a moment. We're talking about a tournament spread across an entire continent. From the frozen winters of Edmonton in Canada, down through the buzzing metropolis of New York, across the sun-baked plains of Texas, all the way down to the ancient footballing cathedrals of Mexico City. This isn't just a World Cup, it's a continental celebration.
Canada is hosting its very first World Cup. Let that sink in. A nation that has been growing its football culture steadily for decades finally gets its moment on the global stage.
Canadian football fans have waited a long time for this, and when those matches kick off in Toronto and Vancouver, you better believe those stadiums are going to be absolutely electric.
Mexico, meanwhile, becomes the first nation in history to host the World Cup 3 times. They hosted in 1970 and again in 1986. And both of those tournaments produced some of the most iconic moments in football history. The hand of God, the goal of the century, both happened in Mexico. The Azteca doesn't just host football matches, it holds football's memories, its ghosts, its greatest stories, and in 2026 it gets to add new chapters to that incredible legacy.
And then there's the United States. America hosted the World Cup back in 1994, and that tournament changed everything. It shattered attendance records. It introduced football to millions of new fans. It planted a seed that has been growing ever since.
The MLS was founded directly because of that tournament. An entire generation of American footballers grew up inspired by what they saw in 1994.
And now, 32 years later, the World Cup is coming back, and American football is in a completely different place. The USMNT is stronger than ever. The fan base is bigger than ever. The infrastructure is better than ever. The timing couldn't be more perfect. Let's talk about the venues, because the 2026 World Cup isn't just playing in a handful of cities, it's spreading across 16 different stadiums in 11 cities across 3 countries. Let's talk about the venues, because the 2026 World Cup isn't just playing in a handful of cities, it's spreading across 16 different stadiums in 11 cities across 3 countries. In the United States alone, you have venues that represent the very peak of modern stadium architecture. MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, just outside New York City, is set to host the final. And what a venue it is, with a capacity of over 82,000 fans in the greatest city in the world. The 2026 World Cup final is going to be the most watched, most talked about, most celebrated sporting moment in modern history. Then there's AT&T Stadium in Dallas, SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, Levi's Stadium in San Francisco, Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, Lincoln Financial Field in Philadelphia, Gillette Stadium in Boston. Every single one of these venues is a world-class facility. And every single one of them is going to be transformed into a cathedral of football for the summer of 2026. But perhaps the most emotionally significant venue of all is the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City. This stadium has hosted 2 World Cup finals. It witnessed Pelé lift the trophy in 1970. It was the stage where Diego Maradona delivered arguably the greatest individual performance in football history in 1986. The Azteca holds football's memories, its ghosts, its greatest stories. The Azteca holds football's memories, its ghosts, its greatest stories. Let's talk numbers, because the scale of this tournament is genuinely staggering. The 1994 World Cup in the United States set a total attendance record of nearly 3.6 million fans across 52 matches. That record has stood for over 30 years. In 2026, with 104 matches being played, that record is not just going to be broken, it's going to be absolutely obliterated. FIFA is projecting total attendance figures that could exceed 5 million fans. 5 million people walking through turnstiles, filling stadiums, singing, chanting, crying, celebrating. 5 million human beings brought together by a sport that was born on the streets and fields of Victorian England and has since conquered the entire world. The television numbers are equally mind-blowing. The 2022 Qatar World Cup was watched by an estimated 5 billion people globally, half the population of planet Earth. For 2026, with the tournament being hosted in North America, those numbers could climb even higher. We are talking about the single most watched broadcast event in human history, bigger than the moon landing, bigger than any Olympic Games. bigger than anything that has ever appeared on a screen anywhere in the world. We are talking about the single greatest sporting event our species has ever staged. Now let's get into some of the fascinating details and stories that make 2026 so unique, because this tournament is full of extraordinary facts that most people simply don't know. Fact number 1. The 2026 World Cup will feature the longest distance between host venues of any tournament ever. The distance from Vancouver in Canada to Monterrey in Mexico is over 4,000 kilometers. To put that in perspective, that's roughly the distance between London and Tehran. Fans following their national teams across multiple venues are going to need some serious frequent flyer miles. Fact number 2. For the first time ever, a World Cup match will be played at altitude in North America. Mexico City sits at over 2,200 meters above sea level. Players who are not acclimatized to that altitude will feel the effects within minutes. Breathing becomes harder, muscles fatigue faster. The ball even behaves differently in thinner air. Tactical preparation for altitude matches is going to be a serious factor in 2026 in a way we haven't seen since the South Africa tournament in 2010. Fact number 3. The 2026 World Cup will be the last tournament where Lionel Messi or Cristiano Ronaldo could conceivably appear, though both would be in their late 30s. An era of football that has defined an entire generation is drawing to a close. For millions of fans around the world, 2026 represents one final chance to watch the greatest players of their generation compete on the ultimate stage. Fact number 4. Canada has never won a World Cup match in their entire history. They appeared at the 1986 tournament in Mexico, played 3 games, scored 0 goals, and went home winless. Now they're hosting. The pressure, the expectation, the emotion of playing a home World Cup for the very first time is going to make Canada's campaign one of the most compelling storylines of the entire tournament. Fact number 5. The United States men's national team has been drawn into what many consider the toughest potential hosting situation in World Cup history. As a co-host, the USMNT enters the tournament with enormous pressure and expectation from a footballing public that is now genuinely passionate about the game in a way that simply didn't exist in 1994. The players know this, the coaches know this, and the entire nation is going to be watching. So why does all of this actually matter? Beyond the records and the numbers and the incredible facts, why should we care that the 2026 World Cup is going to be the biggest in history? Here's why. Football is more than a sport. It has always been more than a sport. When Cameroon shocked Argentina in Italia 90, it wasn't just a football result. It was a statement that Africa belonged on the world stage. When South Korea reached the semi-finals in 2002, it ignited a passion for the game across an entire continent. When Morocco made history in Qatar in 2022, an entire Arab world celebrated as one. Football carries the hopes and dreams and identities of nations, and the World Cup is where those stories get told. The expansion to 48 teams means that nations from the Caribbean, from Central America, from Southeast Asia, from the Pacific Islands, from Sub-Saharan Africa now have a genuine pathway to the greatest tournament on Earth. And when those nations qualify, when those fans pour into stadiums wearing colours that have never been seen at a World Cup before, something genuinely magical happens to the sport. Football grows, football evolves, football reaches new heights. There's also an economic dimension that cannot be ignored. FIFA projects that the 2026 World Cup will generate revenues exceeding $11 billion. That's money that flows back into football development programs around the world, into grassroots academies, into coaching education, into infrastructure for developing nations. The biggest World Cup in history isn't just a spectacle, it's an investment in the future of the game. And then there's the cultural impact on North America itself. The 2026 tournament has the potential to do for football in the United States and Canada what the 1994 tournament started. A new generation of children is going to watch these matches. They're going to fall in love with the game, they're going to pick up a ball and start kicking it around.
And some of those kids are going to become the footballers who represent their nations at the 2030 and 2034 World Cups. The ripple effects of 2026 will be felt for decades.
So let's bring it all together. Why is the FIFA World Cup 2026 going to be the biggest in history?
48 teams, giving more nations than ever before the chance to write their story on the world's greatest stage. 3 host nations, creating a continental celebration that stretches across thousands of kilometers and dozens of cultures. 16 world-class stadiums, including the legendary Estadio Azteca and the iconic MetLife Stadium hosting the final.
104 matches, smashing every attendance and viewership record ever set.
And a tournament that arrives at a moment when football's global popularity has never been higher, when the sport is reaching new audiences on new continents, when the game itself is more competitive and more exciting than at any point in its history.
The 1930 World Cup had 13 teams and 32 matches. The 2026 World Cup has 48 teams and 104 matches.
In less than 100 years, this tournament has grown from a small gathering in Uruguay to the single greatest sporting event our species has ever staged. And the best part? We haven't even kicked a ball yet. The stories haven't been written, the heroes haven't been crowned, the goals haven't been scored, the tears haven't been shed. All of that is still to come. The 2026 World Cup isn't just going to be the biggest World Cup in history, it's going to be the biggest sporting event in history, full stop. And we cannot wait. If this video got you fired up about the 2026 World Cup, smash that like button right now because it genuinely helps this channel reach more football fans just like you. And if you want to go even deeper, we've got videos breaking down every single host stadium, ranking every contender's chances of lifting the trophy, and telling the untold stories of the teams who have never experienced a World Cup before but are coming in 2026. Subscribe so you don't miss a single one, and drop a comment below telling me which nation you think is going to lift the trophy at MetLife Stadium in the summer of 2026. I'll see you in the next one. And remember, the beautiful game is about to get even more beautiful. The beautiful game is about to get even more beautiful because in 2026, football doesn't just return to North America, it comes home to the entire world. From the streets of Montevideo, where it all began in 1930, to the grandest stages the sport has ever seen in 2026. What a journey! What a game! 96 years of World Cup history, 22 tournaments, billions of memories, and the greatest chapter is still unwritten. The FIFA World Cup 2026, 48 teams, 3 nations, 16 stadiums, 104 matches, 1 trophy, 1 world. See you at the World Cup. The beautiful game, forever and always the most beautiful game in the world. FIFA World Cup 2026, the biggest, the boldest, the most beautiful tournament in the history of the sport. We will see you there.